This video will show you how to replace the front lower ball joint on a Ford Transit-250. You'll have one of these on each side of the vehicle behind your front wheels. Let's get into it. A quick note about replacing this ball joint: you will need an alignment when we're done. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. Safely raise and support the front end of the vehicle so the wheel's off the ground. If you have a hubcap, go ahead and remove that now. You can either do this by hand or you could carefully pry it out of place. A quick inspection of that hubcap and we'll set it aside. Now after removing that, we've exposed all 5 of our 21mm lug nuts. We'll remove those and the wheel. There we go. Now that I have the wheel off, I can make my way along the inboard side here. Now this is where we have our ball joint. We can see our outer tie rod end. We're going to start by removing our ball joint mounting nut. We'll use a 30mm socket for this. Now we're going to separate the ball joint stud from our lower control arm. This can be done in different ways. You may have a ball joint stud separator, or you might just use a pickle fork. Since we are removing the ball joint to replace it, I'm not worried about damaging it. So I'm sticking my pickle fork in between my control arm and my knuckle where my ball joint is. Let's start tapping on this. While doing so, I'm paying attention to my lower control arm and my stud. I'm waiting to see some movement. As you can tell, I do have movement now, so I can remove my pickle fork. Now continuing on, we're going to pull down on the lower control arm. While I pull down on this, once the ball joint stud makes its way far enough out, I need to continue on by shifting this outward, separating the ball joint stud from the lower control arm. If you need to, you could have a second pair of hands for this. Now that we have that separated, we're going to start removing 2 T50 mounting bolts. You can see one along the rearward side here, and there's a second one on the forward side. These are essentially shaped like a star. There's that mounting bolt. Now, if necessary, you could use something to try to pull this away. Typically, you don't have to. I just want to make sure you can have a clear view of what's happening here. So now we're going to start separating that ball joint from the knuckle. You're going to find that it's stuck in place. Typically, you'd want to press out a ball joint, but this does have those lower ears, which can make it difficult. So I'm going to use an air hammer so we can start tapping this out of position. Now, as we can see, I am making my way down here. This is exactly what we want to see. Just be aware, as you drive this out, it's going to come out straight down towards the ground. There it is, friend. Now, prior to installation of any brand new part, we need to make sure we clean and inspect the mounting area. So I'm looking at my knuckle. I'm going to carefully use a rag. We want to be careful not to cut ourselves in case there's a small metal burr. Just double check to make sure there's a smooth mating surface. You can use some sandpaper or wire brush if necessary. For good measure, I like to use a little bit of anti-seize. That'll help this come out easier in the future, and it'll also help lubricate it for going in now. Now at this point, let's get ready to start installing that ball joint. There is a specialty tool, but not everybody has that. Something a little bit more common might be some extended bolts that fit up inside of this. You're also going to want to make sure you have a pair of washers, one for each of those bolts, and also a mounting nut that fits onto those bolts. Now let's get ready to install the ball joint here. As far as the ball joint, it came with a new protective shield, so we're just sliding that all the way down onto the flange area. We have to make sure we have it in the proper orientation, so this area is facing towards the center of the vehicle. Now when you go to press this up, we need to make sure that everything's properly aligned. This is where those long bolts come in handy. So now this is the way that I have the bolts set up. I have the bolt with a nut and the washer sitting on top of it. We're going to have to bottom out both of these bolts. You'll find that they only go in so far. We'll maneuver the ball joint around as necessary through this process. Just going to bottom these out. Now at this point, we're going to take each one of our mounting nuts. We're going to lightly bottom them out against the ball joint flange. We can continue on driving these up a little bit at a time for each, carefully working the ball joint into the fully upright position. So now we're going to continue on, carefully bringing this up. As I mentioned, we want to make sure the flange is hitting up against here. We'll go a little bit at a time on each side. Now, as I was starting to tighten this, I found that my two studs were starting to bend out or separate down in this area, so I'm just using a clamp to attempt to hold them together as I continue on tightening. As I mentioned, we'll just go side to side as needed. Now, once you feel as though you have that fully tightened, you need to pay attention at the base of the ball joint in comparison to the knuckle, confirming it's properly seated all the way around. This does look good, so I'm going to remove my hardware here and we'll continue on with our brand new mounting bolts. Now that we have that pressed up into place and we're sure it's properly secured, we're going to continue on with our mounting bolts. For each of these mounting bolts, we want to make sure we start them both in. We'll snug them up. The torque for these will be 35 foot-pounds. Now the next thing we have to do is use a pry bar. I'm going to carefully start pulling down on my control arm, so I'm making my way all the way over towards the frame of the vehicle. Now at this point, we can carefully pivot this down. We want to be careful that it does not slip and potentially hurt us in any way. We're going to shift our ball joint stud into the proper positioning. With that in place, let's continue on to the ball joint mounting nut. The torque for that will be 159 foot-pounds. Now, one last quick inspection while we're still under here. After that, you can make your way out from under the vehicle and reinstall your wheel. Once you have your wheel in place, go ahead and start on all 5 of your 21mm lug nuts. We're going to bottom them out in a crisscross manner. We'll get the wheel back on the ground and torque each of the lug nuts to 148 foot-pounds. I've got my wheel back on the ground. Let's go ahead and torque these in a crisscross manner. Torqued. If you have a hubcap, install that now. Now, when we go to install this, we want to pay attention on the hubcap itself. You're going to find you have a small slot for your valve stem to slide through. This is the valve stem. Let's make sure we have this aligned. We'll tap it into place, confirming it's properly secure. Okay, friend, we finished the installation of our front lower ball joint. Now at this point, you want to go ahead and take your vehicle for a road test. You're going to listen for any odd noises and get yourself in alignment. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.